We are joined by the ranking Republican on the Environment and Public Works Committee. Oklahoma Senator James Inhofe, once called global warming a hoax, continues to question whether climate change really poses the threat that environmentalists and some lawmakers up on the Hill claim. Senator Inhofe joins us again from Capitol Hill. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it. And on the face of it, I want to ask you a basic question. The recent UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change concluding that global warming is very likely caused by human activities. Do you, on its face, disagree with that notion?
Well, yeah, because that same IPCC, part of the United Nations, said they downgraded the man's contribution to climate change by 25% in that same report. They also downgraded the sea level rise by 50% in that report, and they also stated that livestock now emits more gas than the entire transportation segment. So I think you're not looking at scientists in this case. You're looking at policymakers, and this is kind of a review for policymakers. Now, look, the science is not settled. We've gone through this. I spent 3 hours with Al Gore the other day, and during that period of time, I held up the names of some 200 very well-respected scientists and gave their quotes, and so it's something we do want to look at. I'll tell you what's interesting, though, that happened today. Carol Browner, who is the EPA administrator under the Clinton administration, had said that in 1997 she felt the science was settled. She said it was settled in 1997. In 1998, she produced a document that said that she had the authority to regulate CO2. Now, she was in there for 8 years. She said, well, if I had 4 more years, maybe I could have done it. That's 14 years. Now she's saying that he has to do it in 6 months. And I think it was just really abusive to Administrator Johnson. I thought he did a great job in responding to the questions.
Sir, I understand that you disagree with the decision from the Supreme Court, but now it is the law of the land. Do you believe that right now the EPA is obligated to begin regulating greenhouse gases?
No, that's not what the decision said. It says that clearly they have the authority to do it. They have to determine first certain things in terms of health, how it affects health, and these things can't be done overnight. And I don't think any reasonable person would expect that. But let's make it very clear. They didn't mandate they do it. They said you clearly have the authority to do it.
How do you respond to some in the business community who may even share some of your skepticism about the science here, that they argue that the regulatory uncertainty out there coming from Washington is causing more harm than any sort of cap on carbon emissions at this point, that regulatory certainty from Washington, even in the form of caps, would be better than what we have today?
Well, you know, I'm not sure I agree with that. Now, there are a lot of them out there, and we had a hearing on this. Several corporations, several industries stand to make not millions but billions of dollars if they should do away with coal-fired generators, and I think we all understand that. But there are certain things that we know are going on out there, and that is that there are people who are anticipating what's going to happen, and the decisions just, can't be made and haven't been made yet.
I'd like to ask you, if I could, about Senator John McCain. He's, of course, Republican. He's been very active on this issue. He introduced one of the first cap-and-trade pieces of legislation up on the Hill. He said just yesterday, some urge we do nothing because we can't be certain how bad the problem might become, or they presume the worst effects are most likely to occur in our grandchildren's lifetime. I'm a proud conservative. I reject that kind of live-for-today, me-generation attitude. This is someone who could be the Republican nominee for president. How do you respond to Senator McCain?
Well, first of all, we had the McCain-Lieberman bill, I think, 3 times on the floor. The last vote was 60-38, and we defeated that bill because, number one, the science was questionable. Number two, let's keep in mind, of all the uncertainties, there's one thing that's certain. That is, if we were to do it and follow any kind of a mandated downgrading of CO2, it would cost something in excess of $300 billion a year. That's 10 times greater than the Clinton-Gore tax increase of 1993. So it's a very, very expensive thing. Secondly, it's pretty well established now, and I asked Senator Gore to refute it, and he could not do it, and that is, if all countries were to comply with the mandates of Kyoto, it would only reduce the temperature in 50 years by 7/100ths of 1 degree. Now, all the time this is happening, and that's just for the developed nations. China has no intention of doing this.
Senator, I do need to leave the discussion there. Thank you very much for joining us, Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma. We're going to be back here on Money and Politics after this short break. We're going to hear from the Chief Investment Officer of CalPERS after this break.